All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're bringing some seriously high energy to a fundamental concept that literally shapes the entire universe around us. We're doing an explainer on exactly how physics defines work and energy. Now, work sounds like a simple, everyday word, right? But as you'll see, the scientific definition of work is incredibly specific and honestly a bit surprising. Okay, let's dive into this by challenging a super common, everyday assumption we all make about physical effort. Imagine you're at the airport or maybe just walking home from the grocery store, and you're just standing there holding a massive, incredibly heavy bag. I mean, your muscles are burning, your heart rate is up, you are definitely putting in a ton of effort. But from a strict physics standpoint, is holding that heavy bag actual work?
Think about that everyday idea of effort. You're sweating, you're absolutely exhausting yourself just holding that heavy bag in place. Biologically speaking, sure, you're burning calories. Now contrast that with scientific work, like pushing a box across the floor. To a physicist, holding that stationary bag is absolutely zero work, while pushing the box is actual, measurable work. We kind of have to shatter this misconception right off the bat. Applying force and feeling tired doesn't automatically equal doing work.
So, here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, the illusion of work. Second, defining work in physics. Third, the three conditions for work. Fourth, the different types of work. And finally, number 5, the energy connection.
Section 1. The illusion of work. Rethinking everyday effort. We really have to rewire how we think about this stuff. Which brings us to Section 2. Defining work in physics and the crucial equation. Let's look at the absolute reality of how physicists view this phenomenon.
So, the crucial point is this. Work is only done when a force applied on an object causes displacement in the direction of that force. In simpler terms, a force absolutely must move an object for work to happen. If there is no movement, like literally zero displacement, there is no work, period.
And the math for this is beautifully straightforward. W equals F times D times cosine theta. W is the work done, F is the applied force, lowercase d is the displacement, the actual distance the object moved, and finally, that theta symbol, that represents the angle between the applied force and the direction of the displacement. You literally need all these specific pieces interacting together to calculate actual work.
Oh, and just to make sure we've got the complete scientific vocabulary for our toolkit here, the official standardized measurement for work, the SI unit, is the joule, represented by a capital J. So whenever we calculate work using that formula we just looked at, our final answer is expressed in joules.
Section 3. Three conditions for work. The rules of the game.
Now, what's really interesting about this is that these aren't just polite guidelines. They are absolute laws that must be met for work to exist. Step 1. Force must act on an object. You have to actually push that box. Step 2. The object must move. It has to have displacement. If that box is glued to the floor and doesn't budge an inch, no work is done. Step 3. Force and displacement should have a component in the same direction. The push and the movement have to be aligned.
Let's cement this with a really vivid comparison. Imagine your car breaks down, and you have to get behind it and push it forward down the street. You apply force, the car displaces forward in the exact direction you're pushing. Work is definitively done. Now picture our earlier example. You're standing perfectly still, holding that incredibly heavy bag. You're exerting tremendous biological force against gravity to keep it off the ground, sure, but because the bag has zero displacement, zero work is done in physics. Honestly, it doesn't matter how much your arms hurt, physics is completely unsympathetic.
Let's move to Section 4 and see how this builds into the different types of work: positive, negative, and zero.
There's a fascinating nuance here in how direction actually dictates the type of work. Positive work happens when force and displacement go in the exact same direction, like lifting an object straight up. Your force is up, the movement is up. Positive work. Negative work occurs when force acts opposite to displacement. Think about a moving object sliding across the floor and slowly coming to a stop. Friction is applying a force in the exact opposite direction of the object's travel. And zero work? Well, we know this happens with no displacement, but interestingly, it also happens when force is perpendicular to motion. If you carry a heavy bag while walking horizontally across a room, the force you apply to hold the bag is upward, but your motion is forward. Because those directions are perpendicular, physics considers it zero work. Crazy, right?
Which leads us to Section 5, the energy connection, the grand payoff.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why work matters in the grand scheme of things.
When work is done on an object, energy is transferred. Work and energy are intimately, inextricably related. It's not just some abstract math equation on a whiteboard. It is the exact mechanism by which energy moves and transfers from one place in the universe to another.
So let's pull all these threads together. Work strictly requires force and displacement. It's measured in joules and it transfers energy. Think of kicking a football. When you swing your leg and connect with the ball, you are doing work on it. The force of your foot causes the ball to displace. But on a much deeper level, that work is the bridge that transfers your body's energy directly into the football, compelling it to fly across the field.
We've seen just how strict physics is about defining work, and we know that doing work is really all about moving energy around. Which brings us to our final, somewhat provocative thought. Think about all the physical work you do in a single day. Every time you push a door open, lift a cup of coffee, or take a step. When you do work and transfer energy, where does that energy ultimately go? Let that spark your curiosity until next time. Keep observing, keep questioning, and thank you for joining this explainer.